You found your way to the Winning Tactics podcast with host Adam Sinkus. Adam discusses winning tactics with small business owners and entrepreneurs, uncovering processes and introducing the tools and solutions for enhancing the bottom line. Thanks again for finding your way to the Winning Tactics podcast, and now your host, Adam Sinkus.
All right. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I know we're coming to you a day late this week, but I assure you we have an absolutely fantastic show lined up for you today, diving deep into payroll and why you should outsource it. And we're going to talk a little bit about PEOs. If you've never heard of those, there'll be some great information there as well. Before we dive into the show, I do want to thank our affiliate partner, Cowork Hub Virtual. Remember, they are giving consultants, coaches, freelancers, solopreneurs a sense of place in a remote work world. It is a super, super cool platform. This is your Zoom replacement on steroids. You have your customers log in. They go to the site. They get greeted by a virtual receptionist. You get to call them to your customized virtual office. Absolutely amazing experience. On top of that, anybody else that's in the platform, you can also see them hanging out. So if you want to go talk to your buddy down the hall and see how they could maybe help you solve a problem, or just have some good friendly water cooler chat, it opens up the possibility for that. Check them out at coworkhubvirtual.com to learn more. And as always, we appreciate their affiliate partnership. Now on to the important stuff. So first and foremost, I want to welcome my guest this week, Charles Reed. Thanks so much for coming on. Before we dive into everything, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Adam, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm a Midwestern boy, grew up in Iowa, joined the Marine Corps after high school, spent 4 years there, including a tour overseas. Came back, met my wife, married her. She had 5 kids when I married her, went to college, and went to work. After working for major corporations for a number of years, I realized I was never going to run one. I'm unwilling to stab people in the back and toss them off the ladder. So I said, if I'm going to run a business like my father did, and he had his own, I better start mine. So I did 30 years ago.
Fantastic. And you are in the CPA space and U.S. Tax Court Practitioner and IRS Advisory Council and all kinds of fun stuff, on top of being the founder of your current company, Get Payroll. Tell us a little bit about some of that other stuff, right? So people are pretty familiar with CPAs, I think, but what's some of that other stuff about?
Well, U.S. Tax Court Practitioner. The U.S. Tax Court was set up 50 years ago. It used to be the Board of Adjustments. And Congress decided that they would allow non-attorneys to continue to practice in what was the successor to the Board of Adjustments. So as a CPA or an EA, you can take a test with the tax court. They give it once every 2 years in D.C., and if you pass it, and about 8% of the people do, you get a bar card with the U.S. Tax Court, which allows you to practice in the tax court without being an attorney. So, if you go to district court and you hire a tax attorney, you're looking at a $5,000 retainer or more. With U.S. Tax Court Practitioner, I work at a lot cheaper rate than that, and I'm able to represent my clients effectively in tax court. Nice thing about tax court, 95% of all cases are settled before they go to court. IRS doesn't really want to go to court. So 95% are settled. So if all else fails, tax court gives you another bite at the apple. And, I have yet to lose a tax court case, knock on wood. But I've settled some, of course. But that's a final place for people to go and file $60, get you a petition in tax court, and get your case heard. And you get another bite at the apple, as I said. IRS Advisory Council for the last 3 years, there's a group of us that have been selected by the IRS, and FBI background checked and all that kind of stuff. And we go up and we advise the IRS because it's a very insular community. They live inside the IRS. They don't do business. They don't do tax preparation. They don't do the things we do. They influence them and impact them all the time, but they don't do them. So it gives us a chance as practitioners and business people to tell them, hey, if you thought about this, or maybe you want to change this and do this a little different, or man, this screws up all the time, you need to fix it. So I've spent the last 3 years doing that, which has been a blast. So that's some of the other things I do.
Absolutely awesome. You also have a book out. We'll get to that towards the bottom of the show so we can make sure that people can go find that. Yep. So you have been a very, very busy man in your 30-year career. Let's get into this a little bit. So let's talk about payroll first of all in small businesses, because people getting paid is a lot of times the reason they come to work for your small business, right?
They seldom volunteer, yes.
But why should we be really approaching outsourcing our payroll as a small business as opposed to maybe doing it ourselves? What are some of those reasons?
Well, first of all, you get the best in payroll processing. We do it every day, all day, every week, every month, every year. We understand it. We live it. That's our business. We know it backwards and forwards. Second, it deflects unwarranted and unwanted government interference. Government will get into your life if you give them a chance. By having a payroll outsourcing company taking care of that, and since we're CPAs, we take a 2848, which allows us to advocate for our clients. We can work directly with the IRS when the IRS screws up, or the client screws up, or the world screws up. We can deal with them directly, and we know the rules and the regulations, sometimes better than the IRS does. So it keeps you from having to deal with the IRS or the state or the local government, whichever's trying to take your money. Next is fraud. Check fraud is a huge thing. If you're writing checks to your employees, every check you write and sign is an invitation for fraud. The checks we write, if we write checks or direct deposits, checks we write on our account for you, and we have positive pay, and we protect you. We haven't gotten hit with a fraud in many years because we're very careful about it and work with our bank, and we're sophisticated enough to make sure it doesn't happen. Tax credits. If you don't know about some of the tax credits, you're just going to lose them. We can advise you. Privacy. You get more privacy. The reports are electronic. They're not laying around. There's not check stubs laying around. There's not other things laying around that people can look at and say, well, why is Sally getting paid more than I am, or whatever else goes on. So we upgrade the privacy. You can take a vacation. With us and most services, you can do these things remotely. We have a client that twice a year does his payroll on the beach using Starbucks Wi-Fi at Waikiki. So, it's great. You can do it. Your staff can do it, and you can review it. You don't have to interrupt your vacation or try and find some place or get up. You can do it right on your laptop. Saves time. You don't have to do it. Just give us the hours. We handle everything else. We do all the deposits. We file all the forms. We deal with the IRS. If checks get lost, we replace them. All those things that take time. W-2s. Oh, I need a W-2 from last year. I need my last 3 pay stubs for my new mortgage company. Yada, yada, yada. We can do all that. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry about it. Okay. And finally, saves money. The cost of doing payroll, writing a paycheck, is several dollars minimum. Plus your time, plus facilities, plus software, computers, desk space, you name it. It's, I did an app years ago that calculated the cost, and it's just really ridiculous what it takes to do payroll in-house. I mean, my father used to do it when I was a new CPA. So, I've seen it, but I've been outsourcing payroll long before I started a payroll company, believe me. It just never made sense to me to do payroll when for a few dollars a month, I can have somebody else do it, take responsibility for it, fix any problems that come up, cuts my cost, cuts my time. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love that. I love the fact that you point out the time exchange there, because too often as entrepreneurs, we try and wear all the hats in our business. And,
Yep.
it's there's only so many hours in the day. There's only so much energy that you have. And most often, if I can take myself from running in my business and start working on my
business, absolutely,
then I can build those things. And back office functions like payroll is something that I think is in my opinion, is a critical no-brainer to send out. You mentioned tax credits, and obviously state to state tax credits are a little bit different. But what are some of the advantages, some of those tax credit advantages that people can take advantage of?
Well, depending upon the day of the week and the administration and everything else, there's tax advantages for hiring veterans, hiring disadvantaged people, hiring Native Americans. Depending on the zone you're in, you may have an opportunity zone that if you hire people in that zone, you get a tax break. They're constantly, they change, okay, and they come in and they come out. I expect more of them this year. I expect the new Congress to pass more of these. It's one of the things the Democrats like to do. So I expect more tax credits for small businesses to hire people. And as a response to the COVID, I think it will be very prevalent. So I think there's some real advantages probably for everybody in the end to take advantage of tax credits. They've been limited before, but I suspect the next ones will be much broader, kind of like the PPP for basically every small business.
Yeah, PPP I think was a great start to a program. I'm hopeful that we'll start to see some more programs like that are a bit longer term, have some longer outlooks for small businesses.
Absolutely.
Over the next couple of years to re-strengthen and rebuild the small business community. What were some of your takeaways on the PPP loans from last year, and kind of what are your opinions on the outlook of more PPP loans or more similar programs coming forward?
Well, the PPP was great. It gave small businesses some free money that allowed them to stay in business and keep their people employed, along with some of the tax breaks on the FFCRA and so on, which allowed you to take credits for keeping people on payroll even though they weren't working. So there was a bunch of good stuff for small businesses to try and keep their people on and working, or at least hired and fed. You don't have an income, it's kind of hard to feed your family. So all those things were great. A number of the banks have been remiss in the forgiveness of it. My understanding was Wells Fargo has not even opened their portal yet. I don't know that for a fact, but that's what I was told yesterday. We did one, and frankly, we got it forgiven last year with our bank. It was nice. It worked easy. The biggest problem with the PPP originally was they changed it every 2 days. So it was a mess, and they of course, as Congress is wont to do, structured it poorly, and they had to go back and fix it, and fix it, and fix it, and fix it. There's a new PPP this year that is running. It's a little less desirable because it's only if you took a major hit. So those of us that didn't have a major hit don't get to participate. But that's where it should go. It's the people that got hurt bad. COVID messed with us all, and those that got hurt worse should get first crack at it. I'm all for that, and I suspect that there will be other crumbs to small business as the year goes on. So hopefully they'll be worthwhile.
Yeah. I foresee a spike in small business growth again this year.
I do too.
With the vaccines coming out and with everything that's coming out, and I try not to get too political on the show, but with everything that is coming out, I see a resurgence happening in the small business space. I also think small business owners have become smarter with how they're approaching their businesses, being more diversified, being more vested in different areas, in not 100% vested in the brick and mortar space, which was kind of the unraveling of a lot of small businesses. So,
Right.
So let's dive into a little more on that payroll side of thing. You mentioned the time. We talked a little bit about the time savings there, and I think that's huge. And we talked a little bit about some of those tax advantages. But you mentioned there's some risk, right, of managing your own payroll, and I want to talk a little bit about some of those risk factors.
Okay. When the IRS screws up, and the IRS makes millions of mistakes a year, they're dealing with a undertrained workforce of 100,000 people. 40% are eligible to retire in the next 2 years. And they have obsolete technology in many areas, some of it going back to the 1960s. So errors happen constantly. What do? You're a small businessman. You did your payroll. You did it right. IRS says you owe us $7,000. What do you do? Who do you call? What do you write? What's your letter say? How do you handle it? What do you do? You're lost. Dealing with the IRS, the analogy I use, if you take the best Brazilian soccer player you can think of, from my day and age, it was Pele. Wonderful athlete. Tremendous soccer player, okay? Now you put him in a New York Yankees uniform at second base. He's still a great athlete. He doesn't know the game, doesn't know the rules, doesn't know the equipment, doesn't know where to throw the ball, doesn't know where to run, doesn't know what the hell to do. I can use my hands to catch the ball. Oh, wow. You know? He's absolutely, totally, and completely lost. The small businessman dealing with the IRS is screwed. You don't go to court without an attorney. Why would you deal with the IRS without a CPA? And if you're in payroll, why would you deal with the IRS without an experienced, competent payroll tax practitioner? It just doesn't make sense. You know, we specialize in compliance. That's our unique selling proposition. CPA, MBA, U.S. Tax Court Practitioner, ERSAC, all those things. We know compliance inside out. We know who to talk to. We had one. It took 9 years to get a $95,000 penalty abated. In the end, they sent a refund of $400 to the client. Now, in actuality, they shouldn't have said that, but I wasn't going to complain when they sent a refund. So that's the kind of thing we can do and have the tenacity and the skills. This took calls to DC. I couldn't get the right people to call me, so I called Chief of Appeals, who I know, because I met him at ERSAC, and said, hey, I can't get this person to call me back. I've tried for months. She said, well, okay. He called me back that afternoon. But, you know, those are the things that we can do for our clients, because when it happens, it may not happen, okay? If you never have an IRS problem and you're doing your own payroll, wonderful. Congratulations. More power to you. But I ask you this. Do you have car insurance?
Yeah.
Do you have homeowners insurance?
Yep.
Do you have life insurance?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you insure your payroll?
Yeah. No, it is an absolutely fantastic point. And I don't know any single small business owner that could give 9 years worth of time to fight a potential tax abatement over payroll.
They might put them out of business.
Oh, for sure.
40% of all small businesses get hit with a penalty every year. So if you don't get hit this year or next year, you'll probably do the following year, I tell you. It's just, and they average about $750. Oh, that's not much, but that's average, okay? Yep. They may be $95,000, they may be $7. If you get a penalty for $7, just write the check. Don't even worry about it. Just write the check. If they figure it out later and give you your money back, great. If not, it's not worth writing the letter, okay?
No, I absolutely love that. I think it's really critical to understand that, you know, there is risk in writing your own payroll. You just like any financial transaction, just like managing your books in a business. But the stakes become infinitely bigger because of the space that you're in.
And the rules change constantly. The last 12 years have been just constant change, okay? And they're changing again. They changed heavily last year. They're changing this year already. I gave up doing financial planning for my clients because I didn't have time to keep up with the market and with the tax code. You're a small businessman. You're running a business. Do you really have time to keep up with the IRS? I get 5 newsletters a week from the IRS about various things, okay? A week, every week, of 3 to 10 items. I take trade journals. If you have insomnia, I recommend the Journal of Taxation, okay? It will put you to sleep, okay? So unless you're a tax geek like me, you can't keep up with it. And it catches me by surprise periodically, too. I go, what the? And I got to dig into it and find out I missed something. And it happens. But I do this stuff every day. That's my business. I don't run the dog grooming salon. I don't run this manufacturing firm. I don't run a restaurant where I'm working 80 hours a week trying to get food out. Okay? I do payroll and payroll taxes and payroll related stuff. That's my business. I don't tell you how to run a restaurant. I don't tell you how to pump gas. I don't tell you how to trim a dog or mow a lawn or any number of a million other jobs, okay? A million other businesses. There's 5 million small businesses in this country, more than that. They're all unique. I don't tell my clients how to do their business. What I do say is, this is how you do payroll and this is how you stay out of the clutches of the IRS.
And I think that's important. Let's shift gears a little bit because a lot of small businesses fall into the PEO space, right? Mm-hmm. So, in my experience and research, I know there are some advantages to it, but there are, I think, like everything, an equal amount of disadvantages to being in the PEO space. Before we dive into whether we should or we shouldn't, can you tell us a little bit about what PEOs are and why and how they exist?
Sure. Professional Employer Organizations, PEO, Professional Employer Organizations. They used to be called staff leasing, okay? And that got such a bad name because originally staff leasing was set up to cheat on taxes, to shift unemployment burdens and so on. And so the group of PEOs got together and changed what they called themselves to get rid of that old problem. Now, PEOs, basically all your people work for them, and they technically hire, fire, oversee the payroll, pay the taxes, file all the filings, provide the workers' comp, provide the group health, and so on. That's what they're supposed to do and all the HR work. But when Sally comes in because her brother was in a car accident and she's crying, she cries on your shoulder. She doesn't cry on the PEO's shoulder. Okay? When you got to fire Jose because you caught him, taken out of the till, the PEO doesn't come in and fire him. You have to. Okay? So really, they don't do much. And the biggest problem with the PEO, 2 things. First of all, they're very expensive. I have never seen a PEO that I can't go in with my partners and save them at least $1,000 per person per year. We had a group that was owned by doctors. One of the golfing buddies was selling PEOs. We sat down with the administrator and went through it all, and their cost was in excess of $300,000 a year more. The doctor found a new golfing buddy. So, yeah. And then the next thing is on PEOs is they will sell you a Cadillac insurance policy when you want to buy a Ford, and you don't get a choice. You buy their Cadillac or you don't. So, and then one of the key things used to be, well, we can get you a better workers' comp rate because we'll get all of these employees together. Well, the workers' comp companies caught wind of that after a few years and said, no, we're going to underwrite each company within the PEO separately on their risk. So that advantage disappeared. So the advantages of the PEOs have disappeared because they were, illusionary to start with, and they were skirting the edges. They've gone away, but the cost factor is still there. And if you read a PEO bill, you're going to be hard pressed to figure it out. They hide their expenses, very much so.
No, I think that's interesting because like a lot of industries, they sell you this dream that they're going to get you these amazing rates on everything and have all these fantastic programs.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that if you can save $1,000 per an employee and you have 25 employees, that's a new company truck.
Every year.
Yeah. Cash money, new company truck every year. So, that in itself is a big deal. And so I think what you've brought to light here is that as a small business owner, we need to think about from a payroll perspective and who we have managing that payroll process. What the dollars and cents really looks like, and don't get shiny object syndrome.
The PEOs sell the sizzle; they don't sell the steak.
Yeah, it's the same reason why when you go to an Applebee's or a Chili's, and they sell the fajitas on the sizzling plate. And walk all the way through the restaurant. That's sales.
Absolutely.
So I always like to wrap up my shows with some final thoughts, and it's just an opportunity to give people really something that they can take away that we talked about today and directly apply to their business. So I leave the floor to you for your final thoughts for today.
Well, again, it's payroll puts you in contact with the IRS all the time. And that, if you're not a professional, is a very precarious place to be in. Most of the IRS people are reasonably good people, but they get put upon by irate people all the time. And so they're not as interested in you as you might think they should be, particularly if you start screaming at them, okay? So if you do have to talk to them, be calm and nice, and if you get one that's a real whatever, hang up and call back, get somebody else. But dealing with the IRS is not for the faint of heart. It's not for the amateur. It's not for the small businessman. Believe me, I've learned the hard way over the last 50 years how to deal with them. In the last 30, I've been dealing with them constantly. And I'm fairly successful. I'm not perfect by any means. But I've learned. That's the book. It's 85. It's 30 years distilled into 90,000 words. Okay, about what payroll is and dealing with it, and how to deal with the IRS, and how to fix a penalty, and how to not get penalized. But dealing with the IRS is a tough road to hoe, guys.
I know I've had to do it myself just with my personal taxes, and getting to a person on the phone, a physical person on the phone, is a feat in itself. So I've never had to deal with it in a business sense personally, but I can only imagine, just based on my own personal tax situations and trying to get a person, that it's quite the fight.
It's no better on the business side than it is on the personal side. They move people back and forth all the time, so it's the same thing.
Fantastic. Well, we definitely appreciate your time. Where can people get your book? Where's the best place to get your book at? Amazon, Barnes & Noble, other fine bookstores, or thepayrollbook.com. It's our website. They can find me at CJR at Get Payroll. GetPayroll.com is the website. Come on, take a look, guys. We'd love to talk to you. Fantastic. Well, we appreciate your time this week. Definitely some really, really good nuggets about why you should shift your payroll and your small business to somebody that that is practicing this and doing this all the time. I can really just really just think that payroll is one of those things as a business owner I don't want to deal with.
It's not worth the time, guys. It's just not worth it.
So we appreciate your time. Next week we will be back where we will be talking about the power of networking. Tuesday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next week, January 26th. Looking forward to another great episode, and we will make sure that we get you all on the replay as well. You can always find us at YouTube, our website, thewinningtactics.com. Or on LinkedIn, Facebook, and all the major social networks and podcast networks. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful week, and we will chat soon.
Well, that wraps up yet another episode of the Winning Tactics Podcast. You can find Adam on both the LinkedIn and Facebook platforms. And to support the show and ensure the success of the podcast, would you kindly consider visiting Patreon.com/Adam Sinkus? We greatly appreciate it. And until next time, from the Winning Tactics Podcast, remember, culture is how your team behaves when no one is looking. Take good care, and thanks for listening.